In the small town of Asheville, North Carolina, where the Blue Ridge Mountains wrapped the skyline and the air carried the smell of pine after rain, lived a young woman named Claire Anderson, a 30-year-old graphic designer who worked remotely for a creative agency based out of New York. Claire had lived in Asheville most of her life, surrounded by family and childhood friends, but deep down, she always carried a quiet longing to explore the world beyond the familiar mountain ridges. Life for Claire had been steady but predictable. She loved her work and appreciated the freedom remote jobs allowed her, but most of her days blurred together. Coffee in the morning, deadlines in the afternoon, quiet dinners alone in the evening, and sometimes long walks near the French Broad River to clear her thoughts. Claire had been single for 3 years after a difficult breakup with someone she thought she would spend forever with, and since then she had guarded her heart, keeping herself busy and convincing herself she was fine with solitude. One Friday morning, while she was finishing up a project, she received a phone call from her college friend Daniel Parker, a software engineer who had moved away to Seattle years ago. Daniel and Claire had been part of the same close-knit group in college, often spending nights studying, attending campus events, or sitting on the lawn talking about life until sunrise. They had always shared an easy friendship, one filled with laughter and mutual respect, but life had pulled them in different directions. On the call, Daniel explained he had some work meetings in Charlotte but wanted to extend his trip and spend the weekend in Asheville, visiting old places and catching up with Claire if she was free. Though Claire hesitated at first, after all, they hadn't seen each other in years, her heart lifted at the thought, and she agreed. By late Friday afternoon, Daniel's car pulled into Claire's driveway. He stepped out with the same familiar smile she remembered, though his features had matured. His hair was a little shorter, his frame a bit stronger, and his eyes still carried the kindness she once leaned on during her hardest college days. Claire felt a strange mix of comfort and nervousness as she welcomed him in. They spent the first evening talking over homemade pasta Claire had prepared, laughing about old college memories, sharing updates about mutual friends, and filling in the gaps of their lives apart. Daniel told her about Seattle's fast pace, the demanding tech culture, and his desire to eventually slow down and reconnect with things that truly mattered. Claire listened, intrigued by how much and yet how little he had changed. On Saturday, they decided to spend the day outdoors. Claire took Daniel to the Blue Ridge Parkway, where they hiked a trail that overlooked endless layers of mountains. The day was filled with light-hearted banter, but beneath it, Claire felt a deepening sense of warmth, a reminder of how natural their connection always had been. At the summit, as they looked at the horizon painted in soft blues and greens, Daniel grew quiet for a moment. "Claire," he said gently, "do you ever feel like you stayed somewhere because it felt safe, even though part of you wanted more?" Claire turned to him, surprised by the vulnerability in his voice, and realized the question was as much about himself as it was about her. She admitted she often wondered about the opportunities she had let pass by, too afraid to leave the comfort of her hometown. They sat there in silence, letting the truth of their unspoken fears linger between them. That evening, they attended a small local music festival downtown, where the streets glowed with string lights and the air was filled with the sound of guitars and violins. Claire noticed how Daniel blended effortlessly with the crowd, yet his attention often drifted back to her, as if she were the reason he had come at all. She found herself smiling in ways she hadn't in a long time. Later that night, as they walked back to her house, Daniel stopped and looked at her with an intensity that made her heart race. "Claire," he said softly, "I didn't come here just for the weekend. I came because I realized something. All those years I spent chasing after the next promotion, the next city, the next project, I kept feeling like something was missing. And when I thought about what made me feel whole, it always came back to people, to connection, and to you." Claire's breath caught, her mind racing. She hadn't expected this. Not from Daniel, not after all these years. She looked into his eyes and saw sincerity, but also fear, as if he had taken the biggest risk by confessing. Unsure of how to respond, she asked for time to think. The next morning, Claire woke early and walked to the riverbank. She thought about her life, the stability of her routines, the safety of staying in the same town, the comfort of not risking her heart again. But then she remembered the way she had laughed with Daniel, how her heart had felt lighter in his presence, how his words had stirred a part of her that she thought had gone silent. When Daniel joined her at the river, carrying 2 cups of coffee, they sat side by side. After a long pause, Claire finally spoke. "I don't know what the future looks like, Daniel. I'm scared to open myself up again. But I know this weekend reminded me of something important. I don't want to keep living safe and small. If you're willing to walk with me, even if we take it slow, then maybe this is worth trying." Daniel smiled, relief washing over his face, and nodded. That's all I hoped for, that you'd be willing to try. The rest of the day they spent simply making breakfast together, strolling through art galleries, laughing as if no time had passed at all. But beneath the ease of the moments was a quiet promise. Change had come, and both of them were ready to embrace it. When Sunday evening arrived and Daniel prepared to leave, Claire felt a pang of sadness, but also something new, hope. As his car pulled away, he rolled down the window and called out, "This isn't the end. It's just the beginning." Watching him disappear down the road, Claire realized that sometimes the moments we least expect, the surprise visit, the quiet confession, the courage to say yes instead of no, are the ones that change everything. And as the sun set over the Blue Ridge Mountains, Claire knew her life had been touched by something rare. The chance to rediscover love, trust, and herself, all in the span of one weekend.